Well, hello and welcome to this week's Koala Wednesday webinar, in which we are going to be diving into, as we do every week, one specific feature of ChatGPT and helping you get a feel for it. And today we're going to be talking about voice mode, or officially advanced voice mode, and just giving you some ideas, obviously, of what it is and how to use it, but importantly, some business use cases that you can start to take back into your own teams and start to use it. So, as for all of our Wednesday webinars, we'll spend about 15 minutes talking about the topic of the week, ChatGPT Voice Mode. I'll then spend about 15 minutes going through some of the latest news and releases that have happened over the past 7 days. And anyone that's in the AI world will have seen Gemini 3 coming out yesterday, so we'll touch on that. And ChatGPT 5.1 came out last Thursday, so I will be giving you some updates on that as well. And then finally, we've got 30 minutes for Q&A. Now we're still in the early sessions of doing these webinars, so I've got a few questions that I'm going to pose at the start of that have come up in client meetings over the last week. But if you've got any other questions, then just either raise your hand, which you can do up in the Zoom panel, or there is a Q&A toggle as well, and I will try and keep my eye on that as we go through. So with that, ChatGPT Voice Mode, and I say the feature your teams don't know exists. And the reason why I say this is that whenever we do our ChatGPT 101 training sessions into companies, it is the voice mode that has people sitting up and going, I had no idea that you could do that. So firstly, let me dive across into my own ChatGPT account, which I am here. Now, what is voice mode? So I want to call your attention to these two buttons here. Now, this microphone, you might lure you into thinking that that is voice mode, but it is not. Let me just explain what that is. As it says here, it is dictating. So let's say I want to create a prompt to help me plan for my one-to-one with a direct report. I'm going to click the button. Hey, ChatGPT, can you help me to create a prompt that I'm going to use in order to plan an upcoming one-to-one with one of my employees? Now, all the dictate mode is doing is processing the words that I have said and turning that into text, so that if I was to hit go there, it's going to send that text across to ChatGPT. So that's all the microphone does. It's just turning your words into text. Now, that can be super valuable because if you're like me, I can talk a lot faster than I can type. And so if you're trying to share some more complex concepts or ideas with ChatGPT, then just talking is way more effective than just typing. But that's not advanced voice mode. Advanced voice mode is this button here. So I'm going to press it. It's going to open up this kind of blue orb, which tells us that we're in advanced voice mode. And then I'm going to have a basic conversation with it. Hey, ChatGPT, I am just doing a brief sort of training session around advanced voice mode. So I just wondered if you could just say hello to everyone.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Nice to have you all tuning in. I'm here to help out, and I hope you enjoy the session.
All right, fantastic. So can you also explain, like, what's different from me just sending voice and turning it into text, like through the dictation mode? What's different about advanced voice mode versus just pure transcription?
Absolutely. Happy to explain that. So, the big difference with advanced voice mode is that it's not just about taking what you say and turning it into text on the screen. It's more like having a real time conversation. So, I can pick up on the tone of your voice, I can respond in a more natural conversational way. And the idea is that it feels a bit more like we're just chatting rather than you just dictating and me transcribing. So, it's a bit more dynamic.
Okay, so let's give some examples about that. Can you speak really slowly so that I can understand and take notes?
Of course, I can definitely do that. So I'll slow it right down so you can take your notes comfortably. And this way you can really see how I can adjust my speaking pace to match whatever you need.
Okay,
So
and now I've had 3 shots of espresso and I want to speak really fast. So can you just speak up because we've got stuff to go through?
absolutely, I can speed right up for you. So if you've got that espresso energy and you want to go through things quickly, I'll match that pace. Just let me know whatever speed you need and we'll keep it on.
Hello, it's
Right.
lovely to meet you.
I'm just pausing
Whatever
there
you need, please don't hesitate to let me know.
to show
We're here
you
to
that
help.
we can choose some different voices. So we were using Veil there, but we
Hey,
can.
I'm ready to hit the ground running. So if there's anything you'd like me,
Hey, how's it going? I'm looking forward to working together.
Hey, it's great to meet you. How's your day going? I'm really looking forward
So
to
there's
working.
plenty of different
hi there.
voices you can
There,
choose.
there.
I
What's
have
up? Hello.
defaulted to
It's
this
lovely to meet
Veil
you. If
because
there's anything
being British, it's lovely to be able to carry on that conversation in a British accent. I find it acts as a great coach. So that is voice mode. What you get after that is a very simple transcription here, but you can see how you can have a really kind of dynamic conversation with the voice there. Now, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm now going to share my phone. So let me get my phone up. Share my phone. Okay, you can now see my phone. Now, we were looking at voice mode there on my desktop, my laptop, and now we're in the same account, but we are on my iPhone. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit the voice, but I'm also then going to start sharing my camera, and this can really bring voice to life. Yeah, you can see the camera. Hey, ChatGPT, I'm getting this book, and I just wondered if you could just walk me through some of the frameworks that are in the book because I've not read it before.
Absolutely. So this book, Obviously Awesome by April Dunford, is all about nailing your product positioning so that customers really understand it and love it. And the book has a bunch of frameworks that are pretty practical. One of the key frameworks she talks about is basically how to break down your market categories and figure out where your product fits. She'll guide you through understanding your competitive alternatives, what your unique features are, and how to basically position it so that the right customers just immediately get it. In a nutshell,
Amazing. I'm just going to pause that there. So ChatGPT is fantastic if you are dealing with anything that's in the physical, the built environment. So you're able to chat, it's able to see things if you're out and about. So that's fantastic. Now, some other use cases that I've been scouring on X and LinkedIn, where people are talking about good use cases, are more of these sort of hands-free scenarios. And so one that came up, which had a lot of comments on it, was about people working in physical jobs, so construction, for example. So I'm sat here in a WeWork phone booth at the moment. Hey, ChatGPT, I am sat here in a WeWork phone booth and I'm trying to work out the exact volume of this booth. So it is around 115 centimeters long and it is 127 centimeters depth, and then it is 340 centimeters high. So what is the volume of this?
absolutely. Let's figure that out. So to get the volume of your phone booth, we basically just multiply those three dimensions together. You've got 115 centimeters in length, 127 centimeters in depth, and 340 centimeters in height. When we multiply those together, 115 times 127 times 340, you're going to get a volume of roughly 4,960 cubic centimeters. So in other words, about just under 5 million cubic centimeters of volume. That should give you a good idea.
Okay, so that's a simple example, but I'm hearing many stories of builders who used to have a bit of paper and doing some rough calculations, but have now able to have ChatGPT in their pocket, and they've got a tape measure, and they're just talking to ChatGPT, calling out their measurements as they go. So let me go back to sharing my main screen. Here we are. Okay, so some other use cases are really where ChatGPT starts to have more context about your own company and your organization. So the next one I'm going to show you is an example about a client that you might be selling into. Now, 100% have to be very clear on the disclaimer here. Unilever is not a current client of ours and not a prospect. I've just picked a company that we're all familiar with. Unilever, big CPG company. They make a lot of your favorite products. Maybe use some Dove shampoo or some Vaseline. I think these are all brands that come from Unilever. So what we've got here is a project. If you're on the Wednesday webinar 2 weeks ago, we talked about projects. And all I've done in this project is just load it up with some instructions that we want to help account executives at Koala to be able to prospect into their target account, to be able to plan their outreach, and to role play specific conversations. I've then loaded this up with a bit of information about Unilever as a company and a bit about our positioning and the services that we offer. I've also given it a role play guide. So when we have a bit of role play in a minute, I want this project to push back on us and to not take everything that we say at first glance. Hey ChatGPT, it's Charlie here. We are just getting ready for our sort of prospecting and outreach into Unilever, and I just wonder if you can help me to plan the first meeting, and then maybe we can dive into some role play.
Absolutely, Charlie. Let's get you set up for that first Unilever meeting. We can start by laying out a quick game plan. I'll help you shape a tight agenda, suggest a few tailored discovery questions for a first call, and then once you're feeling good, we can jump into a role play. Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan. So in my research, I'm chatting with their chief people officer, and they're really looking at how they can use AI to attract and retain high quality talent. So maybe let's think about framing that conversation, and then we can do some role play.
Perfect. So since you're talking to the Chief People Officer, Mairead Niger in this case, let's focus on how AI can help Unilever really strengthen their talent pipeline. For the agenda, maybe we aim for a 30-minute call that goes like this: a quick intro and context setting, then dive into a few discovery questions around their current talent challenges and what they've already tried. And then you can introduce a value hypothesis about how Koala's AI could support their employee experience and talent goals. After that, we can definitely role play it out.
Okay, well let's do it. Well, let's try some role play. What role are you going to take?
All right, let's do it. I'll go ahead and take on the role of Mairead Niger, the Chief People Officer. I'll keep it realistic and give you some genuine style pushback on talent and AI. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and start the call, and I jump right in as Mairead.
Fantastic. Well, hi, Mairead. It's Charlie here. We spoke briefly last week. Wanted to share a little bit of our experience working with other CPOs in similar large organizations where they're really seeing that AI and ChatGPT specifically can be a path to attracting new talent and importantly, retaining. One of the challenges that we see often in companies is that AI is seen as an IT project, as a technical project, and not as a change program. And this really misses the opportunity with the non-IT teams in HR, finance, and business.
Hi, Charlie, and thanks for reaching out again. I remember our quick chat. You're absolutely right that a lot of times AI gets parked in the IT corner. And from an HR perspective, I'm really interested in how we can bring it into the fold of our talent and culture strategy. So I'd love to hear a bit more about how you see that actually playing out in practice.
Okay, awesome. I will do that, but just can you just help me sort of think through what my opening line was like? Any comments, feedback, thoughts?
Absolutely. Let me step out of role for a second and give you some quick feedback. So, your opening line was actually really strong. You reintroduced yourself. You reminded me that we had spoken before, which is a great way to anchor the conversation.
So I'm just going to pause there. You can see how you can get into a really in-depth conversation with ChatGPT. And because we're doing this in a project, it is really well grounded in the context. Now imagine that in a real scenario where we've actually got, I don't know, the RFP from the client, we've got our proposal, we've got some of our call notes, and the ChatGPT project really understands the context of where we are. Now, the final sort of demo or scenario that I want to provide you is about how can you bucket up a situation or a scenario that other people in your team are going through so that they can use voice role play. So here we were working in a project, and so this is more about me and my close team being able to use it. Now I'm going to dive into a GPT. Now, a GPT, we touched on these in last week's Wednesday webinar, and these are a great way of sharing a common process for other people. Now, imagine across your organization, you've got 1,000 people, 5,000 people, and everyone should be doing regular, consistent one-to-ones with their manager. But often that doesn't happen because people don't know how to have a great one-to-one. They don't know what's required of them. Well, a GPT is a great way of packaging that up, but not only about helping them to prepare for that one-to-one, but actually role playing. So I'm just going to dive into advanced voice here. Hey ChatGPT, it's Charlie here. I am coming up to a one-to-one that I'm going to have with my manager. I've been in the role for a year now. I'm starting to think about what comes next, and I'd love to role play that so that we can, plan it out. And when I actually have that conversation, I feel well prepared.
Absolutely, Charlie. I'd be happy to help you out. It's great that you're thinking about what's next for you and that you want to take charge of that conversation. So let's do a bit of role play. I'll step into the shoes of your manager and you can practice how you'd like to bring up your thoughts about your future and next steps. Whenever you're ready, you can start and I'll respond as your manager would.
Awesome. And you could take on the name Emma of my manager. Hey, Emma. Obviously everything's going well. I've hit all my targets in the last 6 months and really loving becoming a core, dependable part of the team. But it's also having me start thinking about what comes next. And I really see me developing my career in the organization. Whilst I love being part of this team, I also want to start discussing with you about what's beyond. Can we discuss that?
Of course, Charlie. Absolutely. I'm glad you brought this up. It's always good to talk about where you see yourself growing. So let's dive into it. Tell me a bit more about what you're envisioning next, and we can figure out how I can support you in that.
All right, I'm just going to pause that before I get into a hypothetical one-to-one with my hypothetical manager. But what I hope you can see through these different scenarios is that the potential use cases for GPT voice is huge. And it just takes a little bit of kind of mental gymnastics to put yourself in a situation that either you might find yourself in the future, or even better, that other people might find themselves in the future. And you can start to craft these scenarios that make it super helpful for people. So I'm just going to dive now across to the deck again, and let's just remember what we have looked at. So there is a difference between dictation mode and advanced voice mode. And advanced voice mode is this wavelength sort of icon on the right. Dictation mode just takes the words that you have said and then translates them into text that goes into the text model. Whereas the advanced voice mode is going to actually have that dynamic two-way conversation. We looked at how you can choose your voice. I'm using the Veil one, which is this sort of British female voice, but play around with the different voices. You will also have noticed there that when you use advanced voice in a GPT, it uses a standard different voice. I think it's called Shimmer, and they just use it for GPTs for some reason. We looked at sharing your camera on mobile, so you can give advanced voice either screenshots, but even better, you can give it access to your camera, and it can see things live if you're out in the built environment. Different ways of using it to think through. So learning a topic, I'm on my way to work, I'm driving in the car, I want to learn about workers' council in Germany and how that would impact us if we were to open an office there. Think about physical things that you might want to do that would be even better if you were hands-free. So I was trying to calculate the volume of the WeWork booth that I'm in. But if you're a builder, a carpenter, anyone that is dealing with physical measurements and wants to be able to say the calculations and have ChatGPT calculate that. Think about recapping anything. Maybe you've been sent a long document. Maybe you've got some transcription of some call notes. Being able to put that into a ChatGPT project and being able to get a summary and talk about it is super helpful. And then finally, we had a couple of scenarios there of role playing. I've worked in sales roles all the way through my career, and every single role it's been, right, now we're going to do some role play, we're going to do some role play, and everyone cringes because role playing with your manager or with a colleague is just a very cringy experience. But I find role playing with ChatGPT, there's no judgment. You can just keep going. You can say, let's start again. No one gets the giggles. And so it is a fantastic way of practicing either internal conversations or external for customers. This was an article published just a few weeks back on CNN Business, and it was an article about a company where ChatGPT is just the default tool now, in addition to a spanner and a wrench for their plumbers, because they're able to talk to it and get live advice on parts, how to fix something, and explicitly using the camera to show ChatGPT what they're working on is giving them real-time feedback. A couple of kind of gotchas and thoughts just to bear in mind. At the moment, GPT Voice is using the 4.0 model, which is the legacy model before ChatGPT 5 came out. So it is not a true full reasoning model. We're expecting some updates soon on this. It is well talked about that the voice mode is not using the current model. With that in mind, if you're having very long conversations, you may experience that it starts to forget what you've talked about in the past, or it feels a little bit like you're going over the same ground. So just be wary of that. In my experience, by having this conversation in a project where you're giving it access to all of that context in real time, rather than it having to remember what you've talked about, is very, very powerful. So that is our voice mode demos. Hopefully that's given you some wonderful ideas to take back into your business. And now let's talk about some of the updates that have happened in the last 7 days. And there have been some updates. So firstly, yesterday, Tuesday, Google launched Gemini 3 as a range of models. And as part of that, they launched a preview of Gemini 3 Pro, their most powerful model to date. Now, with all of these releases, you see a range of different charts and benchmarks. And for most people, it's like, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at or why this is important. Here's one of those charts. This is the ARC AGI2 leaderboard, which is a set of tests and tasks that are provided to these new models to look at their agentic and long-running ability to solve very, very complex tasks. And all you need to know is that the axis going up on the left is showing the score against these tests. And you can see the two green ones, Gemini 3 Pro, which is the one that has been launched in preview, and Gemini 3 Deep Think, which is also in preview, is over on the top right. These are markedly big improvements on the previous models of GPT-5 that's out there, or Claude 4.5. So it's a more powerful model, very exciting. I encourage you to get your hands on it. You can see it in your Gemini app. You can go to aistudio.google.com and you can play with it there. And it's also been rolled out in AI mode in Google search already. So you can go and experience it. Now, my next point is not just about Gemini, but it's about all of these new releases that are coming out, because we're expecting more to come from the other model providers in the run-up to Christmas. Just beware of what I call model hopping. Ooh, new releases come out, new benchmarks. This is the one. We must all jump over there. Now everyone start playing with Gemini this week. And then maybe next week there's a new Claude that comes out. Right, all run over there. Now, whilst it is good to experiment with these different models, I want to make the point that if it is really easy for your people to move from one model to another, it demonstrates that they are not using the models, whichever model it is, to its real depth. So if, for example, let's say we're going to talk about the new ChatGPT model that came out last week. If everyone has run away from Gemini because 5.1 has come out, then it has to mean that they're not deeply using gems in Gemini. It has to mean that they're not deeply using Notebook LM or their workspace integrations. Because if they were deeply using them, then switching to another model is going to be quite difficult. In the same way, if you are a deep user of ChatGPT Business or Enterprise, you will have a lot of shared projects across your team. You will have a lot of GPTs that have wrapped up your processes, policies, and templates. You will have a lot of connectors into GitHub and Linear and Box. And it won't be as simple as switching to a new model from Google. So just keep this in the back of your mind, that if in your company you hear people are model hopping left, right, and center, then this might be a cause to go back to your change enablement program and figure out how we can get people really using the core features of these platforms. Now, I touched on the release last Thursday of ChatGPT 5.1. Now, back in August, ChatGPT launched GPT-5, and that was the new sort of frontier model for them. 5.1 released last week 2 new updates to both their instant model and their thinking model. And it really improved a few things, just the conversational nature of it, just it feeling a little bit more human, a little bit more personal. But they've also given it some upgraded instruction following. So let me just show you what that is. So firstly, when you go to your model switcher now in ChatGPT, up at the top here, you can see 5.1 instead of 5. And you can see we've got instant and thinking are in the 5.1 part of this model switcher. So automatically, you're going to have access to those 2 models. The Pro model, which is a bit more like a research assistant, is still using ChatGPT 5, and you can see that down at the bottom there. So nothing needed on your behalf to apply these new models. GPT 5.1 comes with improved custom instruction following. Well, what does that mean? Well, in your personalization settings, which you get by going to your icon, your name down in the bottom left on your desktop, you are going to open up personalization and you're going to see this custom instructions. Here is where you can really teach ChatGPT how you like to work. Always rhyme, always answer in 6 words. Always use British English. I want more S's rather than Z's. Because I'm in the UK, I want you to default to UK legal documents, governance and regulations rather than US ones. These are where you can really instruct ChatGPT how to behave. GPT 5.1 is much better at following these, not only in your first message to them, but also over a long-running conversation. So if you ask it to only answer in 6 words, it's going to carry on answering in only 6 words as your conversation develops. The next thing that was launched with 5.1 was some new and some improved personalities. And you're going to get this also in the personalization section. So when ChatGPT 5 came out, there was a bit of pushback from real deep users of 4.0, which was the preceding model, that 4.0 had some real sort of personality. It felt like a friend, it felt like a colleague. And when 5 came in, it felt a bit too clinical. And the work they've been doing on 5.1 is to really improve and enhance that. So there's 8 of these models, of these personalities. And let me just show you what that means in practice. I've taken exactly the same question and I've asked it in all of the 8 different personalities. So the question is, as a leader, I might be asking, can you help me to prepare for a one-to-one with a direct report where we need to have a challenging conversation? And you might be familiar with this screen here. Yes, we've got some bullet points. Yes, we've got some headings. We've got some emojis to direct our conversation and our eyes. So this is the default. And if you do nothing, this is what you've got. This is standard ChatGPT. The next up is professional. Okay. I'm a worker. I'm a professional. I don't need emojis. I don't need lots of sort of headings and this kind of thing. So you can see this is a bit more of a clinical kind of response. Friendly. Well, I might want someone that's actually feeling a bit more like a peer and is actually going to I don't want to say dumb things down, but not be so clinical. Absolutely, Charlie. Let's get you set up so I can walk you through that one-to-one feeling. It doesn't have to feel like stepping on a Lego barefoot. With a bit of prep, yeah, you can keep it constructive and human. Okay, this feels a bit like a real partner as I plan this one-to-one. Candid. Actually, I don't want all of this Lego bricks and this chit chat. I just want someone that's going to tell me like it is. First, what kind of challenging conversation is it? To tailor your advice, tell me a bit more, and then I'm going to come back to you with exactly what you want. Maybe I want something quirky. Challenging one-to-ones are a bit like stepping into a quiet clearing in the woods. The air is still, both of you know something is important is about to be said, and your job is to guide the path forwards without turning it into a storm. Well, maybe that's the kind of personality that you want to interact with. Efficient. Let's get straight to the point. We've got no fluff here. We've got no lines. We've got no big headings. We're getting through the exact response, but in a lot fewer words. Nerdy. I definitely don't want any headings here. Just tell me the exact information in excruciating detail. And then finally, cynical. I want something that's a bit sarcastic and going to keep me on my toes. I guess we're doing the managerial heavy lifting today. Fine. Let's get you ready so that you don't walk into that one-to-one and accidentally recreate a low-budget workspace drama. What I can hope you can see here is that actually these personalities are very, very different in how they respond. It is like speaking to very different people. So my guidance is that instead of just doing a simple test like this, where you just ask one question and get different answers back and then make a decision, I would encourage you to pick one and run it for the whole day. Do real work in your projects, in your GPTs, in voice mode. Have some different discussions and get a feeling for what it's like to interact with that personality. And then after a week, then pick the one and lock it down. I think I'm working with professional at the moment. That seems to have been a nice blend for me. And then my final comment for AI in the news last week. This popped up on Reddit last week and is a great warning on what not to do when using ChatGPT to create content. So this was a Pakistani newspaper, and it's an article about auto sales in the country. And take a look at this highlighted section at the end of the article. If you want, I can also create an even snappier front page style version with punchy one-line stats and a bold infographic ready layout. Perfect for maximum reader impact. Do you want me to do that next? Now, you might have seen something similar when you have been using ChatGPT to ask to write a document. Now, this is just a warning that as a human, you are responsible for what you pass on to others as your own work, and copying and pasting direct from ChatGPT is not the right approach. Absolutely use ChatGPT to help you think through ideas, to craft your overview, even to write some of the content, but do not copy and paste. Otherwise, you may end up in the next Reddit post. So with that, we come to the end of the 2 bits of content that I wanted to cover. And now we've got a little bit of time for some Q&A. So I will keep an eye on if there's any questions that come through on the chat. Please feel free to ask either by raising your hand or by putting a question into the chat. But I've got a couple of questions here that have popped up in customer conversations this week that I thought would be useful for us to discuss. So the first was a question that came up. In our organization, we have given all of our employees the opportunity to pick and choose any tool that they want. We want to encourage AI experimentation. So we've got some people, for example, that are using Gemini. Some people are using ChatGPT, either on a personal account. Some have got ChatGPT Business. Some are just using tools in the apps that they're using, whether that is Salesforce, whether that is Zendesk, whatever the module is that they're using. And what do we think about this? Is this good or not? My response to that was I definitely recommend and encourage experimentation. But the problem is, and this goes back to our model hopping conversation earlier on, that if everyone is using different tools, then actually, as a team, we're not collaborating and using one tool and getting deep expertise in that. So I'll give you one example, would be shared projects in ChatGPT. Well, shared projects, one of the first ways that you can really have a group of people collaborating around a single subject, which could be a client that we're trying to sell to. Now, if one person is in ChatGPT, another is in their Gemini, another is chatting in Salesforce, well, we're all chatting about the same account, but we're all doing it in a different place with a different source knowledge. And so we're not really getting the benefit of one of these tools. And so this isn't a pitch for ChatGPT over another tool. It's just that at a company level, my recommendation is you have one default tool that everyone is trained on and everyone has the skills to be able to collaborate in it. And if that is Gemini, that's Gemini. If that is Copilot, that's Copilot. If it's ChatGPT, it's ChatGPT. But pick one and make sure that everyone knows how they can work as a team in multiplayer mode within that. Now, the second question that came up earlier this week was with an enterprise company that had built their own GPT tool. Now, you see this in quite a lot of large enterprise companies who got ahead in the early days by building, call it company name GPT or Acme GPT, and their IT team built an interface on the front end of the OpenAI APIs or any other vendor's API. Now, they did this for a couple of very good reasons. One was that back then, the vendors themselves didn't have fully functional and very secure and governed and compliant interfaces. So building your own in-house made sense. IT teams also felt that it was very helpful that you could switch from one vendor to another. So we don't have lock-in. Within Acme GPT, you can switch from Gemini to Anthropic to ChatGPT or any other of the open source models. Okay, this is great in theory, but what we're seeing now is that employees don't want this paradox of choice. They just want to be told, this is the tool, go and use it. And then the third main reason why companies did this in the past was connectors, being able to connect into their source systems, whether that is SharePoint, Google Drive, Salesforce, Dropbox, whatever it might be. Because back then, the model providers didn't have these great connections. Well, those connectors do exist now. So I'll just jump over on my screen here. I'm going to share this in the links afterwards. This was a post from Ethan Mollick, a fantastic person that I recommend you follow for all things AI. And he had this post a few weeks back. A sign of a company being advanced in AI adoption was that they built their own internal chatbot, company named GPT. But as the models themselves and their chatbots become more advanced, more agentic, with the voice mode like we talked about, like shared projects with memory, actually what you're finding is that now your IT team is in competition with OpenAI's development team, with Gemini's development team, with Claude's development team, to try and outcompete them on their own product, their own APIs with all of these features. So my response to this company earlier this week is not, now's the time to just throw out company name GPT, but it is a time to sort of reassess, why is it that we built that? Do those reasons still stand? And actually, is our IT team's effort and budget and expertise best placed on trying to rebuild a ChatGPT interface? Or is it best placed on doing something else? So I'll share this article with you, just some of my thoughts and some of my thinking, and hopefully that will help you with that conversation and that answer. So with that in mind, we're coming close to time. I'd like to thank you very much for joining the third of our Wednesday webinars. Let me show you what we've got coming up next week. Next week, we've got one of my favorite topics, because this is what really comes up in so many of our conversations with clients, and it is about writing great prompts. Prompt engineering is a strong phrase. Maybe it is overly complex. What I think about is just communicating. How do you communicate what you want with an AI model so that you can get back at what you want? And how do we give these skills to people in HR, to people in marketing, to people in finance, people in legal, so that you don't need to be in IT or a machine learning expert to be able to get at what you want. So if you're in the UK, that's 3 p.m. GMT next week. If you're in a different time zone, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time next week, we will do this all again. If you have enjoyed today's session and you want to share it with others, then you can go to koala.com/resources/Wednesday webinars, and immediately we get the recording, we will load this up there. So you can already go and see the previous two episodes on shared projects and custom GPTs, and this one on voice mode will be up there shortly. So with that, thank you very much. Appreciate your attendance, and we will see you all next week.